In my book launch for Aspiring Child, a biography of Mary W. Shelley in Sonnets, which took place last month, hosted by the National University of Modern Languages in Islamabad, one of the things I talked about was Mary Shelley's cleverness and how she found ways to navigate the male-dominated, chauvinistic world that she, of course, lived in. And we can find all kinds of evidence besides just, obviously, the genius of her writing. And here's one of my favorite examples. This actually came after the accidental drowning of her husband, Percy Shelley, and she was a widow. And she wanted to bring out a biography of Percy. She wanted to pull together all of his poems, both published and unpublished, and put out, edited editions, authoritative editions of his poetry, and bolster his reputation as a poet. But she had this problem. Well, she had several problems, but here was one of the biggest ones. Percy's father wanted him to be forgotten. He didn't approve of the choices that his son had made in many ways. He didn't want a biography of Percy's life being written, especially by someone who was sympathetic, toward his son. And so he completely, told Mary that wasn't going to happen. He was supporting her somewhat financially. He wasn't very generous, but he was giving some financial support to her in her widowhood as she was raising his grandson, Percy's son. So Mary came up with a strategy. She would put out Percy's poems and edit them, giving some context for them, but in particular, she would give biographical context for Percy's poems. And she would talk about maybe what was going on in their lives when Percy wrote this or that, or how some experience that he had had or they had had, can be seen reflected in the poem, through a word choice or whatever. And so by editing his poems in that way, she was able to, in fact, sort of surreptitiously write a biography of Percy and get that out into the world via the biographical context of his different poems. That seemed to get past his father's prohibitions. And then in the process, she also invented a way of editing and contextualizing literary work. Before that time, people hadn't been using biographical context to analyze and to publish poems within that biographical context, rather. And so Mary Shelley invented a whole other way of editing, which we still use today.